right, so let's look at some more similar figure problems that you might encounter. All right, if I look at this problem right here, all I know that they tell me about these two triangles, remember this is a small triangle that's lying on top of a bigger triangle. So GHJ is lying on top of GMK. I know that their bases are parallel to each other, and I know that they both share G. So G is a shared base, or a shared vertex. Okay, so I know that they have one pair of corresponding angles that are congruent because they share it. Now, the fact that they tell me that these are parallel tells me something. So if I take this line and I extend it, if I remember what I learned from parallel lines, then if I extend these two lines, this direction, then you should notice something. This would be a transversal, and here are my parallel lines. Well, if I look at J and K, I should notice that those are corresponding angles, and corresponding angles are congruent. So therefore, J and K have to be congruent. So sometimes it helps to extend those lines out. So I know that they share G, and I know that they have these corresponding angles that are congruent. So these two triangles are congruent by the AA postulate, or AA similarity postulate. And if I want to write my similarity statement, I'm going to say triangle GHJ is similar to triangle. Well, G corresponds to G, H corresponds to M, and J corresponds to K. All right, so you might see something like that. So if you see parallel lines marked on your congruent triangles, think, why are they showing me that? They might be showing you that so that you can mark some corresponding angles. Okay, so let's look over here at number 8. So number 8, they tell me that B is 50 degrees. And they tell me that this angle right here, BEF, is 130 degrees. Well, is that enough to tell me that these two triangles are similar? Remember, this is a little triangle, AEF, and ABC is the big one. Okay, so I know that they both share A, that's a reflexive angle, but do I know enough to tell that this angle right here is congruent to that angle right there? Well, if that's 130, then this one has to be 50 because that's a linear pair, and linear pairs add up to 180. So 180 minus 130 would be 50. So that is enough. So sometimes you have to find an unknown angle given what they already give you. So I have two pairs of corresponding angles that are congruent. I have these two right here, B and E, and I have A up here, which is congruent to itself. So these are similar triangles by the AA postulate. And the similarity statement would read triangle AEF is congruent, or similar to triangle A, and B corresponds to E, and C corresponds to F. Okay, so let's look at a few more before we go. Okay, so our directions say explain why the triangles are similar, our three postulates, and then find each length. So now we have to actually do something after we figure it out. All right, so if I figure out that it is similar, I'm going to say that I see that they give me vertical angles, but I also notice that they show me that those two sides are parallel. Well, they're showing me that for a reason, so I'm going to extend this line so that you can see that it is a transversal to this line and that line right there. So if you notice, this angle right here and this angle right here, those are alternate interior angles. So I'm going to mark those. Those are alternate interior angles. And what do we know about alternate interior angles? They're congruent. So I have one pair of congruent corresponding angles, and I have a second pair of corresponding congruent angles. So I can definitely say that these two are parallel by AA. Oops. AA goes right here. Now it says, all right, find GK. So I'm trying to find this side right here. So let's call that our X. Well, we have to figure out what does that side correspond to. Well, 11 is here, and 11 is between my two angles, and KG or GK is between those two angles. So those have to correspond to each other. So I'm gonna highlight this in yellow or green also. So X goes to 11, and then 8 has to go to 12. So let's highlight that in a different color. So 8 has to go to 12. And then we're going to cross multiply and solve for X. So X times 12 is 12X. And 11 times 8 is 88. And I'm going to divide by 12. If I put that in my calculator, I'm going to get that 7.3 is what X equals. So 7.3 goes up here. Repeating, that's repeating. Okay? All right, so let's try a few more. Okay, so similarity, let's see. Let's look at what they give me. They give me one pair of corresponding angles are congruent, and they give me that they share U. So U is going to be my reflexive angle. They both share a U. Okay, so these are definitely similar by AA, similarity postulate. So now we have to figure out what SU is. So SU is this whole length right here. Okay, so that's going to be our X. All right, so we know that this is 28 and that's 42, and this is 26 and this is what we're looking for. So I'm going to say that this pink goes to that green, and this pink goes to that green. Let me make it green. Okay, so I'm going to put pink over green equals pink over green. So 28 over 42 equals pink, which is 26 over X. And I'm going to cross multiply. So I get 28 times X equals 26 times 42. And if I multiply those, 26 times 42, let's see, 26 times 42 is 1092. And if I divide that by 28, I get 39. So X equals 39. So that's my length of SU, 39. Okay? All right, so let's try one more before we call it a night. Okay, so here we have a little bitty triangle and we have a bigger, much bigger triangle. And they give us one pair corresponding sides. I don't know if they're in proportion. They gave me another measurement. They tell me they're right triangles, so I know that those are obviously congruent. And I also noticed that they both share C. So they're definitely similar by AA. And now we have to find DE. So DE is this part right here. So that's going to be our X. Okay, so for this one, I know that I'm going to put the short side over the whole side of CE equals this short side over 5. So I'm going to put 3.25 is going to go over my 3.25 plus my X. That would be the whole side, and that's going to equal this 1.25 over my 5. And if I cross multiply, I get 3.25 times 5. That comes out to 16.25. That's these two multiplied together. And if I do the other side, I have to do 1.25 times 3.25 plus X. Well, 1.25 times 3.25 equals 4.0625 plus 1.25x. And then I need to do a little subtracting and solving for x. So I'm going to do 16.25 minus 4.0625, and that's going to give me 12.1875 equals 1.25x, and then divide that by 1.25, and I get that x equals 9.75. And that is your answer. 9.75. Okay, so hopefully that's enough to kind of get you on your way. If you want to try number 12, feel free to do it. I'll tell you that the answer is 15, and they are similar by side, angle, side. So see if you can set those up and actually get 15 for your answer.